Takes for that audiobook for Scribe.
One take.
One take over 4 days. And for Drunk on Sports, Tim? And for Just Ballin', Frank?
Pardon the interruption, but I'm Mike Wilbon. It's Alien Abduction Tuesday, Tony. How you celebrate?
I'm Tony Kornheiser. I've got an 8 o'clock probing.
Oh, that's so nasty. We start this show off with just the worst.
Do you believe in
stuff.
aliens? Do you believe that we're the only people in the universe?
The universe meaning everywhere? No,
Yes, meaning everywhere.
I don't.
Including Seattle, for example. Yeah.
Oh, that's tough for you, Norfolk.
Right. No, I don't. I think there's other people. Or other.
You believe in that New Mexico, that Lot 51,
Area 51. I don't
yeah.
disbelieve it. I don't. Welcome to PTI, boys and girls. In today's episode, Kevin Love returns. The NFL may have a new catch rule, and Shohei Ohtani is really struggling. But we begin today with Trae Young's declaration that he will indeed skip the rest of his college eligibility and go to the NBA. Although Young slumped late, he did lead the country in scoring and assists. Nobody else has done that. Wilbon, do you still buy the Steph Curry comparisons?
Nobody else in the country taking 25 shots a game either. So you ought to lead the game, the country in scoring. He was a terrific college player for 2/3 of his freshman season, the only season he will have played in college basketball. Am I buying comparisons to Steph Curry? No, I'm not. And part is I don't care about what the ISO numbers say versus the three-point numbers versus the catch and shoot numbers. I don't care. Some of this is an eye test. I'm looking at him. I remember Steph Curry. I saw Steph Curry play in person. I didn't see Trae Young in person. But no, I look at him and I think maybe this kid's got a chance to be a rotation player. Maybe he can work himself up and make himself. 2 or 3 years in the NBA, you can improve. And hopefully for him, that's true. Steph Curry, no.
Yeah, so I'm informed in any discussion about Steph Curry of my position on Steph Curry when he was at Davidson.
You thought he was a little weak, right?
Yes, I thought he was too slight and too frail to be a very good player, let alone a star. So I could not have been more wrong about Steph Curry, who's a great player and an MVP. And I look at Trae Young and I think, you know what? In the NBA, all the players who are regular players, they're really good. And teams are not going to put trick defenses out there for Trae Young. See, I think Trae Young is going to get better in the NBA.
I hope he does.
Because he's got range and he's quick and he's not going to be guarded by 2 and 3 people every time he gets his hands on the ball.
That's right.
I
agree with that.
I look at Steph Curry now and I think, well, nobody can be that good. But I think Trae Young will get better.
I hope he gets better, Tony. He'll have full time to devote to this. He'll be coached. He'll be playing with better players. And God knows, there's some guys that when they start practicing with the players that they do, Kawhi Leonard. Was Kawhi Leonard this good, going to be this good no matter what? Or they're practicing against Tim Duncan and Manu Ginobili with it against those guys, make him better.
I think you need to remind people that Steph Curry was overall number 7. Yeah. Minnesota took 2 point guards ahead of him. Minnesota was wrong. But DeMar DeRozan was number 9. A lot of people missed on him, too. I'm more optimistic about Trae Young in the NBA than you are.
Okay, good. Yeah. Again,
no.
I'd be happy for him. I'm rooting for him.
Yeah.
I'm just not ready to go to Steph Curry yet.
No, and you shouldn't.
Even on a night when LeBron James recorded a triple-double and led the Cavaliers to a rare win over a playoff-bound team, he wasn't the primary story of the night in Cleveland. That was the return of Kevin Love to the lineup after missing 21 games with a fractured left hand. Love played just 25 minutes, but still had 18 points, 7 boards. Tony, the Cavaliers moved into 3rd place ahead of the Pacers and your Wizards, but they're still just 2.5 games out of 6th in the East. But I'll bet you have them back to 1st in the TK power rankings, don't you?
The TKPI?
Yeah.
No, I don't. But look, they just got back an all-star. Kevin Love's not a fringe player. Kevin Love is the second best player on a team that has been to 3 straight finals.
That's right.
Okay. So they're not, this is a very important thing to get him back. Are they better than Boston? Are they better than Toronto? I don't know that, but I'm pretty sure about this. I'm pretty sure that when you start with LeBron James and Kevin Love, that's a good start. I may have overrated the wins they had right at the trading deadline.
Thank you for that admission.
I may well have done that. But with Kevin Love, they're good enough that I don't bet against them.
Tony, Kevin Love's the second, not just best player, but second most important player on that team. They need a second scorer, a guy who can give you, 18 to 25 minutes, pretty efficient.
Yeah.
Could also give you 30 if you need to.
Yeah.
Or if trick defense is not trick, overloaded defenses, unlike Trae Young, they do seek out LeBron. LeBron, by the way, more triple-doubles this year than ever in his career.
And by the way, not resting, playing every night.
Because he knows
Playing every night.
it's not about
Playing
winning
hard.
the games. They have got to figure out what they've got. And Rodney Hood is still out, not playing.
Yeah.
And so, Tony, I don't know about the acquisition of the 4 guys, but the combo, the tag team partnership
No, I like
of
that.
LeBron and Kevin Love works.
I mean, you can name Russell Westbrook the MVP, and you can name James Harden the MVP. Best player in the world is LeBron James.
Yep.
So you're not going to get me yet to bet against LeBron James.
But in the power ratings now,
Third.
Toronto, Boston, Cleveland.
Yeah. But they could be up. They could be at
They
one.
could move
but
back up, yeah.
The Portland Trailblazers have won 13 straight games. Now, nobody much is paying attention.
I am.
Because they're paying attention to the Houston Rockets, who have won 22 of 23, and the Golden State Warriors, who are losing starters on a daily basis. But, Wilbon, if the Trailblazers beat the Rockets tonight, will you take them seriously?
I always have taken them seriously. I'd say going back to the middle of January, a couple of months, because I do watch them. And I find them to be one of the 3 or 4 most entertaining teams in basketball. And if you like backcourt play, and I know you do, from your time growing up with the New York Knickerbockers, and you liked watching Frazier and Monroe, I get that.
And Barnett.
Well, when you have Dame Lillard and McCollum, these guys are terrific. And
Dame Lillard,
yes.
she's been knighted in England? She's Dame Lillard?
Dame,
Okay.
for
That's
people
great
to
to
know.
Yeah.
Those guys will give it up as well as
Like Dame Judi
crush
Dench?
you.
Yeah.
Crush you shooting the basketball, and they now have more size. They have depth, so they are not getting guys, knock on wood for them, injured by the dozen like the Warriors. Tony, they are as big a threat in the West at number 3 as the number 3 seed. Whoever that will be in the East.
Okay, so I don't want to disparage.
You haven't even watched them.
I don't want to disparage the Portland team in any way
you'll do it
because
now
I
anyway.
know that their coach Terry Stott's a big PTI fan,
We
and
like
I'm
Terry
very
Stotts.
appreciative of that.
We like Terry
I'm
Stotts,
appreciative
yes.
of that. But I will tell you that my sense is, and I've waited a long time for this because I've had to sit with you for a long time. To me, I'm waiting for Houston playing Golden State.
Okay, but
so
let one of them beat Portland first.
Someone will.
Huh?
Someone will.
Not someone.
Someone will.
So you're not taking them seriously.
And
This
you
is
know
like
what?
when you
can
weren't
take
taking
a team-
Houston seriously until what?
You
February
can take
15th.
a team seriously without projecting them into the Western Conference Finals.
I didn't do that.
They remind me of the Washington Wizards. They're a
No,
guard-oriented
they're
team.
beyond them.
They're a guard-oriented team that might do very well, but and even though they've beaten the Wizards, have beaten top teams in
Yeah,
the
they
league,
have.
I don't expect them in the conference
You know
finals.
what Portland doesn't do? And by the way, they beat Golden State twice. They beat Cleveland last week.
Right.
You know what they don't do? They don't have a meeting and come back and say, see, it's even worse now. They have
Right,
team
okay.
chemistry.
Right.
They got terrific players, all-stars. You're going to wake up in the middle of April and say, oh, well, most of us
you know
weren't
what?
paying attention to Portland. No, you
Don't
weren't
tell me
paying
about
attention.
April. Tell me
Huh?
about June. Are they going to be in the conference finals, yes or no?
No.
Well, thank you.
They'll be in the,
Okay.
in the previous
Thank
round,
you.
giving
Thank
somebody
you.
fits.
Okay.
Nice
No further
job out of
questions.
you.
Thank you.
That's good. That's good. Our long national nightmare is nearly over. The NFL is about to redefine what a catch is. Our dear friend Mark Maskey of the Washington Post reports today that the competition committee is about to go totally away from allowing, quote, a slight movement of the football in a receiver's hands, close quote, as determined by replay, to determine what is a catch. And that, quote, going to the ground, close quote, that provision, Tony, it would be banned as well. So what will be a catch when the receiver has control of the football? Imagine using that kind of common sense. Tom, will this make this more or less confusing?
I think it's going to suit our eyes more. I think we're going to have more of a consensus as to what a catch is. Will there still be questions and replays that'll take a lot of time, and will some people still get upset? Yeah, I expect that's going to happen. Yeah. But I think generally it's going to make it less confusing, don't you?
No.
Less confusing.
I think it'll be just as confusing but less controversial. Because I think when they go, somebody sitting in New York has to say, hey, the guy took 3 steps after he caught the ball. It's a catch.
So you know what?
People at home will say, yes, that's a catch.
That'll also lead to more fumbles.
Okay, fine.
Because when you make the football
Fine.
move and then you get hit and the ball comes out,
Good.
you can't save the receiver anymore by saying it's an
And what the
incomplete
NFL
pass.
can't do is have it both ways. Determine what a catch is and stop trying to give another, yet the 135th advantage to the offense. Because they don't want the offense losing the ball because they just want the offenses to roll up and down the field for touchdowns.
So I don't know how many people in our audience are old enough to remember the Watergate hearings. You and I remember the Watergate hearings.
Very well.
There was a senator, Senator Sam Ervin, I believe he was from North Carolina, and he basically said, let's not overthink this. If it walks like a duck and it swims like a duck and it quacks like a duck, it's a duck. I think most of us know what a catch is. And the legislation against that being a catch is stupid. Let's not have it.
I agree with you. Lost me at Sam Ervin. Dead or alive, Sam Ervin.
Oh, no, gone. He's not signed
Born in
anymore.
like the other century, the other.
Two back.
Another.
Two back.
Okay.
Shohei Ohtani, the Japanese Babe Ruth, is having a rough spring. How rough? He's hitting .083, and his ERA is 27. Man. Is that a tough enough spring for you, Wilbon?
That's a twofer.
The Angels say they see the talent, but people are beginning to wonder if the Angels will send Ohtani down to the minors. Should they?
Sure. What? Yeah. He's not ready. He's about as ready as Trae Young at this point. He's not ready.
Trae Young's not going to the minors. He's going to the NBA.
He's just served some time in the minors.
Well, okay.
College ranks.
Well.
Mr. Ohtani needs to go somewhere. You know what? Here's my measurement for this. You know the great Henry Aaron? I got to see Henry Aaron last week.
44, bad Henry.
Henry Aaron, baby. Henry Aaron played 87 games in like what amounts now to a rookie league. And then he went up to something approaching a AAA league. They weren't called that then in the early 1950s. And he played 137 games in Eau Claire. And then he went to the majors. If the great Henry Aaron can go to the minors, you think Mr. Ohtani can't go to the minors?
So this is interesting because your measuring stick is Henry Aaron, and I appreciate that. And mine's Willie Mays.
Yep.
And Willie Mays was in the minors. Willie Mays was in Minneapolis.
Too, wasn't he?
Yeah, he was in the minors for a while. Because this is not basketball and this is not football, and the culture of baseball is the minors. You're asking a kid from Japan who probably doesn't speak the language all that well, who hasn't seen American pitchers, who's in a completely different country.
Half a season.
This is an enormous cultural change for him, as well as a baseball change. Of course you send him to the minors. What is interesting to me is a few weeks ago when Mike Scioscia said that he thought the Angels were going to concentrate on Ohtani as a pitcher. And we sat here and we said, no, that's crazy. He's Babe Ruth. He's got a DH. He's got a hit.
Right now, he's just Baby Ruth, a candy bar. He's not Babe
Mike
Ruth.
Scioscia knows more about baseball than I do. Maybe.
But they got to send this kid to the minors. And it is not going to be some stigma attached. Cal Ripken, did he play in the minors?
Yeah, I guess he did. But
Barry Bonds.
Didn't Bryce Harper, didn't Chris Davis?
The only person, if you say to me, pick a guy who didn't play in the minors, I'm going to say Mickey Mantle. Is that true?
I don't know. But Willie Mays did, however briefly in Minneapolis.
Mays and Aaron, that's enough, right?
Yeah.
That list?
I think that's good enough. Let's take a break. Coming up, which team would you rather be drafted by? Your Browns or my Jets?
And who's had the more improbable tournament run? The Ramblers or Nevada?
Didn't they keep Chris Bryant in the minors for a little while? They kept Bryce Harper for a little while.
Yeah, a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, that's
Ted Williams, minors.
To go out like UVA.
Yeah.
Let's get the first one from the producer over the loudspeaker.
Oops, not get in.
Toss up easier road to the Final Four, Kentucky or Gonzaga?
Got research on this one. Kentucky is a 5 seed, right? Yeah. They're playing a 9 seed in Kansas State. Yeah. If they get by them, they either get an 11 seed, your Loyola, or a 7 seed, Nevada. 5's higher, so they should do it. On the other hand, Gonzaga is a 4 seed.
Yeah.
Now, I'm going to assume that they're going to beat Florida State. But then they can get Michigan, which is a 3 seed, and a Power 5 conference tournament champion. So the easier path is Kentucky.
Of course it is. Gonzaga plays Michigan. You need to research. You needed to bother some poor young intern who should have been doing better work. You need numbers. You know what Michigan did all year? Unlike Portland, you can actually see them in your time zone, Michigan. And you know they can beat either Kentucky or Gonzaga or anybody else in the tournament, Michigan, who should be out of the tournament because they should have gotten beat at least once.
That pool shot should never have gone in.
Kentucky has what we might think to be an easy
Even though
path,
Calipari was on this show yesterday and made the 3 possible opponents into the 3 toughest teams in the entire world.
They beat tough teams.
Next.
Toss-up, they play on Friday. Who's been more impressive, West Virginia or Villanova?
Again, to the glasses, West Virginia has been very impressive. They beat Murray State and Marshall by a total of 40 points.
Murray State and Marshall.
They shot 50% in both of those games.
Murray State and Marshall.
Okay, Villanova beat Radford and Alabama.
All right,
by
Alabama.
a total of 49. They made 31 three-pointers. I would suggest, and I know you're going to agree with me, that the toughest of all those four opponents was Alabama. And Villanova put 49 on them in the second half. So the answer is Villanova.
Alabama has a kid who's supposed to be in one of the top 10 players chosen in the draft.
Yeah.
We know he's a legit player. We watched him all year. He justified all the praise he's gotten. They beat Alabama. Look, I know playing Marshall, playing our in-state rival, where all those kids went who were not recruited by West Virginia, and they were angry and they wanted at them, much in the same way regionally UMBC
and they beat them big.
wanted a piece of Virginia because they're neighboring
West Virginia
kids.
beat them big.
And West Virginia said, get back.
That's right.
You're a JC.
That's right.
Get out of here.
So with the upcoming game, whose clothing line do you more admire, Bob Huggins or Mr. Wright, Jay Wright?
Who's in charge of Bob Huggins'
Next.
clothing line? Don Rickles?
Toss-up. They play on Thursday. More improbable run. Loyola Chicago or Nevada?
Everyone will be tempted to say Loyola because they are an 11 seed and because that shot by Custer hit 3 different rims before it went in. But the answer here is Nevada. And the reason the answer is Nevada is because they were down 22 with 10-something left to play against a number 2 seed, Cincinnati. You cannot win that game. It's absolutely impossible to win that game. I know that Loyola was down in its 2 games, but they weren't down 22, beat a team known for defense. So that's why the answer is Nevada.
It's not Nevada necessarily because both
you're
of them
from Chicago.
did nevers. Nobody's ever come back from 22 down in a second half. Now, I remember that Duke did this against, I think it was 21 down, against Maryland in the Final Four. But this was even 1 point greater in Nevada. Nobody's ever done that. And nobody's ever hit 2 last-second shots to win back-to-back games. So both of these are historic. I'm going to say Loyola.
Of course you are.
They needed divine
Loyola
intervention
Chicago.
and some help from Sister Jean.
Of course you're going to say that.
You don't want to acknowledge
Next.
Toss-up, last one. Who would you rather be drafted by, the Browns or the Jets?
I'd rather play in the Canadian Football League. The Browns are a clown franchise. Their coach is 1-31. Even if they're making progress, they're years away from anything. Their last winning season was 2007. They've had 1 winning season since 2002.
Worst to first, you don't believe?
Not for them this year. The Jets at least had a winning season in 2015. Look, but this pains me to say what I'm going to say now because the Jets are the team of my youth. The Browns at least have a buzz around them because they're so bad. The Jets are totally irrelevant. They're a dormant franchise.
Yeah, but the Jets have been into 2 AFC title games. I think 2009 and 10.
With Sanchez.
So, okay, so they've done something,
with the Sanchez.
in our lives.
Yes.
The Cleveland Browns, we're not going back to Bernie Kosar. Last seen at Indians games all the time, at least by me. So the Browns, you can't say the Browns. And I'm a child of the Midwest, and I want to see the Browns win. But I got to say the Jets.
That's it. Let's take one last break. Still to come, the Dodgers lose a key contributor.
And Richard Sherman is officially a Niner.
You like that jacket with the 49ers, like that suit?
Well, yeah, it's the 49ers colors. He's doing that for the Nets.
How do you think Huggins would look in that?
Better than he looks now. Better than that stuff he's wearing. But he does that for effect, right? Huggins used to, you can find pictures of Huggy Bear in a suit and tie.
The Kids have won 22 of their last 23 games. The Blazers have won 13 in a row. What tonight's game could mean for both teams if they meet the Western Conference playoffs. Plus the latest mock draft, where does Trae Young land?
Happy time, people. Happy 73rd birthday, Pat Riley. If not for Jerry West, Pat Riley may well be thought of as having the greatest lengthy career in basketball. Great college player, good pro, great coach, great executive. I believe, Mike, that from 1985 to 2005, Pat Riley and Phil Jackson dominated the game.
Tony, I saw Pat Riley a month or so ago, and he still got the looks of a movie star and the commanding presence to go with it. Right now,
Always
73.
had that. Always had that. Happy anniversary, Texas A&M. On this day 2 years ago, the third-seeded Aggies rallied from a 12-point deficit with 35 seconds left, really, in regulation to outlast Northern Iowa in double overtime. I'd forgotten that Texas A&M was a third seed. I think of them as a football school, but they drilled North Carolina the other night. That was a 20-point game halfway through the first half.
You don't have any more faith in Texas A&M? You're done with them now?
I'm not done with them, no. I just think of them as the University of Johnny Manziel.
Okay.
Happy trails, Justin Turner. The Dodgers' third baseman broke his left wrist last night when he was hit by a pitch against the Oakland A's. Turner is expected to be out a few weeks, certain to miss the beginning of the season. He had great numbers last season. Hit .322, 21 homers, 71 RBI.
He was clutch in the playoffs the last few seasons, Tony. He's got to get some of the body armor now on that arm, right? Because that'll be facing the pitcher.
What's the deal with his beard? Is that beard cut back a little bit?
Oh, you think it's a little shorter for spring training?
I don't know if it's for spring training or perhaps religious reasons. I have absolutely no idea. A couple of updates. Ted Williams, minors. Mickey Mantle, minors.
Yeah.
Bryce Harper, minors. Chris Bryant, minors. The last significant player to skip the minors altogether.
John Olerud.
John Olerud, yeah.
Toronto mostly, but some other teams.
Yeah, and a good player.
Terrific
But
player.
it doesn't happen. We're running out of show. We go to the big finish.
Let's do it.
Texas's Mo Bamba is going pro. Is he a future all-star?
I think so, in the way Dikembe Mutombo was. Mostly defense, but charismatic young man, Tony. Brooks Koepka will not play in the Masters because of a wrist injury. That's got to disappoint you.
Doesn't disappoint me. I'm sure it disappoints him. I look at the Masters as Tiger,
major
Rory,
winner
and
last year.
Yeah, he won the U.S.
now.
Open. He's a fine player.
Yeah.
I just don't think of him top of mind. Richard Sherman says he will be back on the practice field in May or June. Is that too soon?
Ruptures Achilles in November, but hey, recuperative powers. Good for Richard Sherman. I hope so. The Red Wings have lost 10 in a row. Do I hear 11?
I'm going to give you 11, not because I know anything, but the Red Wings were a dynasty. What happened to them?
Tony, that sport goes against teams that win. They make you start over every time you win.
Wow. Last one, Russell Westbrook goes for his 6th straight triple-double tonight versus Boston. Is he going to get it?
The Celtics are like starting, Bob Cousy tonight. They have no squad.
Good to know.
Yes, I think that Westbrook's going to get another triple-double.
We're out of time. I'm trying to do better the next time, and I'm Tony Kornheiser.
I'm Mike Wilbon. Same time tomorrow, Knuckleheads. You can get